All right. I think we are. Yes. Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's your girl, Morgan A. Owens, here with another awesome influencers episode, talk show, radio show. Since we can't get into the radio station right now due to COVID, we are live streaming via the Cincinnati Herald Facebook page. I am one out of 6, 7 hosts of the influencers. And I am so happy to be here with my special guest, Keith Jenkins, but we'll get to you in a minute. I have a little bit of housekeeping. So everyone tuning in, make sure that you engage, make sure you comment, make sure you like, make sure you share, ask questions now or forever hold your peace. But also Cincinnati Herald Influencers is powered by The Buzz. And of course, you can always look on the Cincinnati Herald website for more information about our upcoming shows. Please also check out the Black Family Reunion. The Cincinnati Herald is a proud sponsor of this 32nd year. So although we can't be in person this year, it is virtual. So right now down at Sawyer Point, there is a drive-through event 10 to 6 p.m. You can get tested for COVID. You can get backpacks. You can register to vote. Shout out to my future VP, Soror, and Link sister that is running for office. So I had to represent today for all my Sorors and Link sisters. But yes, make sure that you go down to Sawyer Point, guys. It's all drive-through. DJ Stank is there, Lando. So there is a party still in the park. So make sure that you go support. And then tonight, tune in for the R&B concert with Kenny Lattimore. Don't you love some Kenny Lattimore? You like
that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah, tune in live 7 p.m. via the Black Film Reunion Facebook page. And then, of course, tomorrow for Sunday worship service with Pastor John Gray. So that was a mouthful. So make sure that you go support the Black Film Reunion this weekend. All right, well, let's get into it. Let me introduce my guest. Actually, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. So Keith, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so go ahead and introduce yourself for everyone watching who may not be familiar with you and what you do.
Okay, Keith Jenkins. I am the new Cincinnati Bearcats beat reporter for the Cincinnati Enquirer. I've been here since kind of feeling my way around. You know, the good news is I'm from here, born and raised. So it's not a weird thing, me being back home. I'm so happy to be back home. I've worked for ESPN and the Associated Press and you know, all around the country. But when I had an opportunity to come back home and cover programs that I've been around my entire life, it was just something that I couldn't pass up. So yeah, I'm a sports reporter and I'm back home and I am loving life right now. It's a little weird with COVID, right? But it's still a lot of fun to be back.
Good. So, you know, you moved during a pandemic. So can you talk about that? How was your experience changing like career, well, not careers, but changing, you know, jobs on the other side of the country? So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was with the Associated Press until January 24th. I was under contract. The contract expired. They wanted me to go in a different direction. And I didn't want to go in that direction. Salute to them. But I was going to go to ESPN and the pandemic hit, sports were canceled. And they were like, yeah, we can't hire you right now. We don't know what tomorrow looks like and da, da, da. So the opportunity presented itself for me to come back home with the Cincinnati Enquirer. And yeah, the move was crazy. I was in Arizona. First I was in Wisconsin and then I moved to Arizona to be where my mom was. She was retired there. And then I moved from Arizona back home here to Ohio and I drove cross country and you could really see like the states who are really taking the necessary measures to be safe and make sure they were distant and healthy and all that. And then there was Missouri. And Missouri was, salute to Missouri if there's anybody listening to Missouri, but there was no socially distant things and measures in place. And they were still doing the breakfast buffet at the hotel in the morning, which I thought was weird. Other hotels were doing prepackaged meals. And so that was a weird thing. But just being able to, when you road trip, you want to stop in and see different sites and experience different parts of the country. And there was no of that because everything was closed. So that was definitely weird. But I made it. I'm here and I'm COVID free and it's all good. So
like your first days at work, because are you working in the office right now, or how does that work?
No, I'm not working in the office right now. It's a little different with us sports people. A lot of the reporters, you're in a perfect world. If things were normal, we're so out and about anyway at games and at press conferences and different events that we don't spend a lot of time in the office anyway. But the Enquirer office is closed. It's open for a handful of people that absolutely need to be there to have supplies and to, but for the most part, a lot of the office has been closed. I went in on June 1st.
Mm-hmm.
I got my badge, I got my laptop, I got a little tutorial. But like I said, I'm from here, so they didn't have to give me a whole, this is how the city works, this is where the neighborhoods are, this is where the campus is. Like I know all that stuff. I know the Enquirer and the people up there already. So thankfully, it was a smooth transition in that they didn't have to do a lot in my onboarding and getting me ready to go. So I went up there and I haven't been back since. And they still haven't decided yet when they will reopen our newsroom. The Gannett owns the Enquirer and they're gradually opening up some of the newsrooms in smaller cities and smaller markets, but they haven't decided yet when they're going to open Cincinnati. So I have not seen the office since June 1st.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy times right now, especially, in sports. So everyone who watches my show, I'm all about everything, girl boss, boss babe, sports, I don't know. But I'm so interested in hearing, how, even the sport world is changing. Since can you go to games? Are people playing games? I mean, what is going on?
Yeah, so typically right now, so the UC football team, they're at football camp in Indiana. They're in West Harrison, Indiana, which is about, 30 minutes away. And in a normal world, I would be there as well. I would wake up, go to camp, I would watch them practice, I would interview players and coaches and, be there right next to everyone. Today, this year, these months, I am not. Our availability is via Zoom calls, via, cell phone and text messages. I have yet to, it's weird. I've been here for 2.5 months. The only person that I've seen in person, as far as UC Athletic goes, is John Brannon, who's the men's head basketball coach. And he and I met for lunch. We had a very socially distant lunch at Incline over on the west side outside. But other than that, it's just been a lot of Zoom calls and phone calls and text messages. And it's a very weird, unconventional time. Yeah. This is what we're in. This is where the space that we're in. So yeah, it's weird. And I'm not at practice. I usually would be. But yeah, it's usually just, Zoom calls and phone calls.
I know you did a piece recently about kind of the racial injustices on the women's basketball coach?
Yeah.
So, with everything. So my last show, I talked with another Cincinnati Black blogger, and we were talking about how, we don't really want to work with brands who don't value us, right, as Black people, or they're posting messages on social media like they support Black Lives Matter movement, they support, their Black consumers, but they don't have any action behind those words. So I know in the sports community, starting way back when, I don't know, was it Kirkpatrick that, took the knee and started that whole thing, how can you talk a little bit about, are things getting better? Do you feel like, are things getting worse? what's the tone right now in the world of sports?
Yeah, it's tough to say if things are getting better or worse, because I think better, in my opinion, would mean actual tangible change
Mhm.
and legislation and things that matter. It's gotten better in the sense that um, leagues and fans, for the most part, generally speaking, have been more receptive of players having a voice and taking a stand. The NBA is playing right now, and they have Black Lives Matter placed prominently on their basketball courts, which I think is awesome. As you're watching a game on ESPN, you're seeing Black Lives Matter. They have different uh, phrases on the back of the players' jerseys, whether it's Breonna Taylor's name, whether it's equality, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's, love us, say her name, things like that are on the back of these guys' jerseys, which I think is great. And then college athletes have even figured out that, hey, we have a voice as well, even though we're quote unquote amateurs. We bring a lot of money in for these universities, and many college athletes have spoken up. A lot of them are concerned, have voiced their concerns about playing this fall football, which, I used to play the sport. For the life of me, I can't understand how you play the sport of football during a pandemic. It just doesn't make sense to me. But a lot of players have had those similar concerns. Some leagues have canceled. They said, we're not going to play football this year. Cincinnati, UC, they're going to try to play a football season this year. And I just spoke with their football coach the other day, and he said that, look, man, we want our players to speak out. We want them to have a voice. There's a lot going on right now in the community that impacts them. A lot of them are Black kids, young Black men. So he encouraged them to have a voice, to speak their mind, to be vocal about what's going on out here. And I think that's great. And I think he's talked about how much he's learned as a white man, 46 years old, being a father of 6. Luke Fickell has learned a lot from his Black players and his Black coaches. So I think it's great in that I think it's becoming a teaching moment and a learning moment for a lot of us, particularly as we're crossing those racial lines as sports often do, right? So it's definitely gotten better, and I think you have to commend Colin Kaepernick for being not the first, but I guess the first in the modern era to really take a stand. And you've definitely seen a lot of athletes, both professional and college, following his footsteps. So I love what's going on, and it's definitely needed and necessary.
Yeah, let me read some of these comments that people are dropping. Anissa says her girlfriends from college and her have a group chat. They started with watching OSU football. She's an OSU football fanatic.
Okay.
So we are sad that football is canceled, but not surprised. We want the athletes to be safe and alive. Contact sports is already risky enough. Tiffany says, I think it's weird when sports are being played with no audience. Listen, Tiffany. Keith trying to tell me that people were selling cardboard cutouts.
You didn't believe me. You lied.
And I did not believe it until I looked up and saw, but they were digital. What was it, like a basketball game maybe I was watching? I looked up. And I'm like, people are really paying for this, but it's like, it's a little creepy, okay? But I understand that people, that love sports. I guess if the malls were to close down forever, I don't know, would that be equated for me? Would I want a cardboard cutout shopping in Chanel or something? I don't know. I don't know if the same happiness, but I could be in the building. I don't know. But yeah, so do you want to talk a little bit about that?
That's funny.
Don't athletes want people cheering them on? Don't they get some sort of excitement from that? I know when I teach Kirby cardio class, I love it when I love it when I have one person, but I will really love it. I have 60. It's just that energy that brings to the room.
100%. That's what they do. They feed off of the fans and the energy, and when you're tired, you get that extra boost from the crowd and all of that. Well, that's not here. You really have to rely on your teammates and the guy or the girl next to you to get that added energy. But I think it's cool. Look, I mean, we have gone without sports for a long time, and I was going to say this country, but people in general, I think sports for a lot of people is just a release. You know, you have the stresses of life and 9-to-5s and family and all that. Man, when I can watch sports, I can just root for my favorite team, my favorite player, and just enjoy. And we've been without that for so long. So the fact that, yeah, it's weird and it's unconventional, and there's cardboard cutouts, and then there's digital fans at NBA games. But for a fan at home, man, it gives people that sense of normalcy that they've been without for so long because their favorite team or their favorite player hasn't been out there. So I think it just, in a weird way, it just helps people cope with this really super crazy world that we're in right now. So I love it. I love that what's going on right now.
I think also it's kind of maybe put people in reality that players are people too.
Yeah, 100%.
And, you know, like their health can't be in jeopardy, although some people I think are still a little bit selfish. You know, they look at players as, you know, commodities and not real people. Because I know I've read several players who have said they're not playing, they're not, you know, doing this because they have families and they don't want to get sick.
Right.
So I think this is, you know, just like you said, it's just weird times that people just have to get used to and be respectful of people's decisions, you know, whether to sit out or whether they want to play or not.
And there was a guy, he's an undrafted rookie for the Seattle Seahawks, which means he's barely on the team, right? He's barely got a uniform. He just got caught recently trying to sneak in a girl into the team hotel with Seahawks attire. They got strict rules. Like, look, it's COVID, it's a pandemic. We need team personnel in here only, nobody in, nobody out. And he's trying to sneak in a chick to get, who knows, right? But like, that's the stuff. There's pros and cons with all of this stuff. Like, I think it's such a capitalist society, and there's so much money at stake, which is a big reason why these games are being played, is because of the money. But yeah, you're seeing the human side of a lot of these guys, and that's a great point. And I think it's great. A lot of them are using this time to speak up and speak out about the injustices and the racial inequality that's going on. And so I love that. Yeah, there's a lot of money that's being made, and it's weird that sports are being played right now, but these athletes are using their platform to talk about what we really need to be discussing, and I love that.
Yeah. Anissa says, yeah, like the shut up and dribble comment directed at LeBron.
Right.
Tiffany asks, how do you think this will affect the players when they don't have the fans? Have you found that there's a decrease of performance in practice?
No, it seems like, well, first off, the leagues have done a really good job of doing the best that they can to create a great atmosphere for not only us who are watching at home, but the players who are, you know, participating in the game. So there are the digital and virtual fans. There's the fake crowd noise that's being pumped into the arenas and the ballparks. But I think what we're seeing is these guys rallying around one another more than ever. You know, the teammate right next to them, the woman in the WNBA that's right next to her. They're really, like, instead of using the fans to get that added push and that added oomph as far as like getting a better performance, they're relying more on themselves and the people next to them. Because really, it's them against the world in a sense, because a lot of them are playing in a bubble where they can't see their families and they can't go out and go to clubs and enjoy life. So they're stuck in these places with these people. So we're really seeing that team aspect really be stronger than ever in this really, really weird time. So
are the cheerleaders still there?
Nah, there's no cheerleaders.
Not even no cheerleaders.
No cheerleaders. It's very, like, you know, players, coaches, training staff, that's it. You know,
yeah.
That's it.
Digital people.
Right.
All right. Well, if everyone's tuning in, I just want to remind you that you're watching The Influencers, powered by the Cincinnati Herald. I've been chatting with Keith Jenkins. What are you in your title? Your title's like all journalists, sports journalist, the man, the myth, the legend. I don't know what you want your title to be. But I'm loving all these ladies that are tuning in, asking all these sports questions.
Yeah, that's dope.
Men, where you at?
Right.
So I want to pivot a little bit. Yeah, I want to. I'll make sure I have any questions that I'm not answering. I want to pivot a little bit. And let's just talk about you. I mean, we have, like I said, we have ladies watching. It's a little eye candy for you ladies. Ow. So are you blushing? So Keith, what was your very first thing you were looking forward to when you got home in Cincinnati? Okay, let me rephrase. So what was the first food?
What's what?
What was the first food that you wanted? Cincinnati food.
Penn Station.
What do you get?
Penn Station. I get the Philly cheesesteak, fries, lemonade, maybe a cookie if I'm feeling myself that day.
Okay.
But yeah, that's my Montgomery Inn. I love Montgomery Inn, Grater's ice cream, La Rosa's pizza.
I said the first thing. Okay.
But Penn Station was on, that's number one on the list, for sure.
Okay. All right. What was the first Cincinnati place that you wanted to go to? Not food related.
Oh, my old neighborhoods.
Okay.
You know, I haven't lived here since I moved away in February of 2009, and I haven't been back since. I've been back to visit, of course, but just driving around the city, going back to my old neighborhoods and seeing where I grew up, and it just really gave me that feeling of, man, I am back. So yeah, that was first.
What neighborhoods is that? You know, Cincinnati, you got to shout out your hood.
For real. Right, nah. So I grew up on the west side. So Western Hills, Price Hill area. Also Queen City over there. I grew up over there. And then I went to Walnut Hills High School. So I went over there for a little bit and checked those out. But just that, you know, that familiar feeling. You're not home until you're home. So I had to really go back home and get that feeling of, man, like I'm back. So yeah.
Let's see. Anissa said Skyline or Gold Star.
Skyline, absolutely. I like Gold Star, but Skyline wins for sure.
Let's see. Cincinnati. What were you surprised by? Any new, I guess, new building, new place, new part of town that you were surprised to see in person?
Well, my elementary school is no longer there. That's a weird thing to me. I went to Quebec Heights Camus Elementary, which is on Ross Avenue, which is off of Glenway Avenue, so completely west side we talking right now. But it's a field. Like that building is no longer there, so that's crazy to me. And they've been doing construction on some of these streets since I was like 8. Like,
they're always gonna do construction on Queen City.
What we doing? That car was there 12 years ago. What we doing?
Always. So you're surprised that your school was gone. What about what about OTR? What do you think?
Nah, and yeah, OTR is still crazy. Just how much that's changed. I've been back since I moved away, and I've seen kind of that develop. But that's not the OTR that I grew up with. I have mixed feelings about that, but I love the money that's being made over there. And you know, the fact that the city feels better, looks better, there's more activity downtown, there's commerce and money being made in businesses. Like I grew up for the most part downtown that was, I mean, you know, like, you know, it was abandoned. There weren't a lot of stores and restaurants. So to be able to drive down there and really see things popping, that's pretty cool.
I do miss Tower Place Mall though. I think
Tower
we
Place
had a
Mall.
good downtown mall.
Yep.
Bring it back. There's no downtown shopping.
Yeah.
What was I also about to ask you? Oh, what do you feel about the new soccer stadium built in the West End? You know, my dad's from the West End, so I have mixed feelings because a lot of people were pushed out of the West End. A historical church was torn down. You know, how do you feel about, you know, the soccer stadium being right in the heart of the West End?
Nah, see, that's another thing. So I grew up at the West End YMCA over there on Lynn Street. You know, I spent a lot of my years down there playing baseball in those fields. And I know a lot of friends and families who live down there. Some of them don't anymore. But I think it's a great thing because the city has really embraced this team and put forth the money to build that stadium and all that. But there's pros and cons with all of that. People are being displaced and moved away. And, you know, the neighborhood that we grew up with is no more. I don't know. I just try to look at the positives. There's a lot of money that team and that league is going to bring in a lot of money for the city. And it's another positive thing that we can kind of rally around, especially during this freaking crazy time. And I'm a sports guy, so I love that the city has a soccer team that we care about. But yeah, seeing the West End and how it is now is definitely, that's like you said, that's one of the things that is weird coming back and seeing how different it is.
Yeah. What is one thing that you wish Cincinnati had like the other cities that you've lived in? What do you think we're missing?
Oh, good question. What are we missing? I love the Ferris wheel. That's dope. But what are we missing? I wish that the public transportation was a little, like, sometimes you just don't feel like driving, and Uber makes things a little easier. But like after being in cities with subways and different and above ground trains and stuff like that, I kind of dig that.
We have a streetcar. Have you rode the streetcar?
Yeah, I haven't rode the streetcar here yet. I saw it though. I haven't read it. There were mixed reviews I've heard about that too. Like some people dig it, some people don't. Where the money came from, all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, the thing I don't like about Cincinnati, and it's just we're so far behind, and we'll always be. We've always been that, and we will always be that. It's almost like a comfort feeling sometimes. You want to, if you want to know what happened 20 years ago, go to Cincinnati. There's like a saying that says that. But I love this city. Don't get it twisted. I love this city. But when I get back, you kind of realize, man, after being in Phoenix and living in New York and Chicago and all these different cities, you're like, man, let's go, yo. Why we so far back? But I love it here. I love it here.
Yeah, it's like, it's like every city, pros and cons. What people always tell me, like, when are you gonna move? I'm like, what do you mean? When am I gonna move? Because the things that I do. Sorry, y'all. Ralph is making a guest appearance too. When are you gonna move? I'm like, for what? Cincinnati is a great place because we're kind of behind. A great place for entrepreneurs, and I think other fields kind of flourish and grow. While making a name for yourself here and then expounding into other territories. Because that's exactly what I did. There's nothing like your hometown that's going to give you love. And I'm sure that you can relate that even when you came back, you got a whole bunch of love, in arms. So, Cincinnati will always be home for me, but that doesn't mean that, I can't spread my wings in other places.
Right.
And also the cost of living is very low, very low. So
money goes a long way here.
Right.
Long way. Yeah.
Right. All right, I want to make sure that I get these comments before we run out of time. Anissa said, yes, she moved away from OTR because it started to feel weird. The neighbors are no longer friendly. She says Cincinnati needs the NBA team, bring it back.
Been a while, yep.
Yes. Hey, Angela. Angela says, truth, there's no catching up at this point. You just have to embrace the big city with the small town mentality.
100%.
So if you're innovative in thinking and thought, there's so much that you could do here just because of that, right?
No, absolutely. It's a great city for a young creative. You can spread your wings and do something dope here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, if you have any last questions, last thoughts for Keith, please drop it. Keith, is there anything that you want to tell my audience, or is there anything you want to ask me? This is your time, now or never. I'll let you take it.
No, I just, I did a couple stories recently that really mean a lot to me. You mentioned the story I did with the women's basketball coach. She's from Louisville. She's a Black woman. And she talked to me about, what Breonna Taylor's death meant to her and the conversations that she had to have with her family and her husband and the young girls that she mentors over at UC. And she was very open and honest and very vulnerable with me. And she was afraid that that would not look right in this super conservative city. As a Black woman, she was afraid she would come off as being an angry Black woman and but people seem to really embrace her. I got an email from someone who was like really encouraged by the story and her willingness to be open and honest about that stuff. And she was like, man, she's such a great leader. I'm glad she's over there. So I would like people to check that out. I just think it's a special thing. It's a story that needed to be told. And also I'm sorry to be so UC sports right now, but that's my job. But like UC basketball, it's been a long time since they won a national championship, 1962. And a lot of those guys have died, unfortunately. And a lot of them are having health issues. But one of the members of that team was George Wilson. He's 78. And he and I recently sat down and talked about how special that team was, and the memories and the emotions and what he went through as a Black man going from Chicago to Cincinnati, which is just over the river from the segregated South. So the issues that he faced. So that story was really important. That's coming out really soon. So stay tuned for that. It's coming out really soon. It's done, actually. We're just trying to figure out when the best time to unleash it. But yeah, man, I'm just excited to be back. And, feel free to, follow my work and check out my website. And I really want to hear the feedback from the community as I'm doing this work. I want to know what stories you guys want to be told. And I want to make sure your voices are being heard, because that's ultimately my job, is to shed light on the community and the issues that are going on out there. So I thank you for having me, and I'm thrilled to death to be back.
Yeah, what's your website so everyone can go look?
KeithJenkins.com. Pretty simple. And you can find all of my work there, and photography and all that stuff is there. So, but yeah, that's just like a catch-all of all of my work that I do. And hit up.
That's some nice lady. Ow. All right, one more question from I gotta play with you. One more question from Tiffany. How do you see yourself making your mark on the city outside of work?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's important to me because I've lived all around the country, and I do a lot of community service, whether it's volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club, whether it's doing different speaking engagements at high schools and elementary schools. And what I love doing most is talking to young men, young Black men, especially, about the importance of mental health. It's okay to not be okay. I think we're taught to be a man and be strong, and just you can't wear your emotions on your sleeve. No, man, that's toxic. Like, it's okay to say that I'm not okay, and it's okay to seek help about some things that you're dealing with. So I've had a lot of conversations around the city or around the country about that stuff, and it's important for me. I love that, but it's also it's something different and special when you can do it in the community that you're from. So I'm looking forward to, I have some speaking engagements lined up. But once this COVID thing gets the heck out of the way, I can really get out in the community and do my thing and make an impact. I'm really, really looking forward to getting out and meeting everybody.
Yes, I love that. And I love that you're doing that. That is so important, especially for these young men. So I applaud you for that. So everyone, please make sure that you follow Keith on social media, but also his website, read his articles, let him know what you think. Please also tune in later today at 6. Naila will be back with another episode of The Influencers. And then also there is a special episode September 5th hosted by me and Naila. We are interviewing all our Black women authors for our Black Women Expo that we were supposed to have in March. But COVID, you ruined it for us, but no worries. Interview them all September 5th. So everyone is invited to come out and hear from these amazing women. Keith, thank you so much again for joining me. I'm sure everyone loved what you had to hear about. We seem to got a lot of questions, a lot of engagement. So thank you so much.
Good. Wear a mask. Wear a mask, everybody.
Yes, wear a mask, everyone. Wear a mask. Go to Sawyer Point. 10 to 5. That's another thing that you've missed, Keith, the Black Family Reunion.
Yeah, for sure.
That turn up, but Tracy Artist and Jazz Jordan Productions have done an awesome job bringing it virtually. My dad off the breakfast yesterday, and he was dropping. Nice. So make sure you go on the Facebook page and watch it, because he did. I mean, I'm biased, but he did a really awesome job talking about the Black family and dropping historical facts. I mean. Yeah. He's right. Like, we are the youngest Black family in history because we were taken apart from our families when we were brought over from wherever we came from. So y'all just gotta go. Y'all gotta go listen to it. But it's been phenomenal. There was the concert last night, concert tonight, Sunday service tomorrow. So if you go to bedside service like me, then you just need to tune in tomorrow anyway. So make sure that you go there. You can get tested for COVID. You can sign up to vote for my new VP, Soror and Link Sister. I will see you guys in September, but make sure you tune in later today with Naila. See you guys later. Thank you, Keith.
You got it.